What do you deserve in this lifetime? I really want to know what you think. What do you think you are deserving of? Do you think that you deserve success, abundance, wealth, good health, happiness? Are you deserving of those things? The reason I'm asking is because today I want to talk to you about something that is at the basis of your alignment and getting everything that you want in life. What we have to talk about is worthiness. I'm Dr. Williams, and this is my podcast. I have 2 graduate degrees in psychology, am a licensed mental health counselor, and an expert in the area of spirituality. I am devoted to living my best life and am sharing it with all of you. I'm bringing my expertise, education, and life experiences to you through this podcast. Everyone deserves to enjoy life, and that is what I'm here to talk about. Depression, anxiety, grief, you name it, we all go through it at one time or another. I believe there's a better way to come at these things than mainstream mental health care offers, and I'm here to offer you my perspective and dig into discovering how you can feel good no matter what life throws at you. It is my intention to contribute goodness to this world, and the content herein is how I do that. But one disclaimer before we dive in. Should you decide to apply the information offered here, be prepared for improvements in your life. You may even live happily ever after, and you'll only have yourself to thank. This is Feel Good Now, the Dr. Williams podcast. What is worthiness, and where does it come from? Well, worthiness is a feeling of deserving, and it comes from inside of you. That's the only place that worthiness comes from, although a lot of us are looking elsewhere in order to feel it. What does it feel like when you feel unworthy? That's an array of negative emotions. There's a whole bunch of negativity in there when you're feeling unworthy. So let's talk about where we're looking in order to feel like we're worthy of anything, just any kind of worthiness at all. One of the biggest mistakes that so many of us make is we're looking externally in order to find our sense of worthiness. I think this starts at a really young age because we're looking to those authority figures in our lives in order to find approval. As a child, you learn that certain behaviors get you positive rewards. And the adults in your life are doing this in a lot of ways. They're not even conscious of what they're doing. But there are a lot of reward systems in school. My son, he gets something called paw prides. For good behavior, they get little tickets called paw prides, and then when they get so many, they can cash them in for prizes. But we also do this at home. My kids have a star chart. When they are conducting themselves with good behavior, I give them stars on their chart, and each star represents 10 cents. So that's how they earn their own money so that they can buy toys that they want. But when I'm analyzing this from this understanding of worthiness, I realize that the reward system is not necessarily a beneficial thing for the child. It's really more of a benefit for the adult. In the school situation, what do teachers want and administrators? They want good behavior because then things go smoothly. At home, it's the same thing. I want my kids to get along so that there's no conflict, so that things go smoothly. But rewarding that behavior is sending a message of approval. And I want to dig into that. I think that many of us can relate with this because as a child, we seek that approval from those adults. And gaining that approval allows us to feel a sense of worthiness. Like, for instance, when a child does something that you want them to be doing, and then you hug them and kiss them and tell them how proud of them you are, or just reinforce this good behavior, you're sending the message of, I approve of this behavior, and now you are worthy of this affection and love from me. There's no need to get defensive about it because intentions are good, right? Because as an adult who is influencing children, we're trying to raise them up to be good human beings. And doing this positive reinforcement is how we have been doing this for years and years and years, decades, right? For decades, we have been training children with positive reinforcement. But when you are considering things from a spiritual standpoint and considering the worthiness of that little soul, you have to acknowledge that you're training them to seek your approval. And in doing that, you are then granting them worthiness. And that is the opposite of what we want to be doing, because everybody is worthy, period. Worthiness is a given. It's a birthright. It's not something that is bestowed upon somebody because of something they have done. I relate with this on a personal level. I remember once I was laying on my bed and I heard my dad start to come up the stairs toward my bedroom, and I felt this overwhelming anxiety to get up and act like I was doing something. Like, I didn't want him to see me just laying there, relaxing. I felt like there was something wrong with that. Like I needed to be being productive in some way. And I just jumped up and I looked around my room and just started like cleaning my room or doing something just to make it look like I was actively doing something. And now when I think about that, I realize that that's the message we're giving to our youth, is that it's not okay to be lazy, right? Laziness has kind of gotten this bad rap. But really, if that's how you're feeling, if you're feeling like relaxing and taking it easy, that's your guidance. You should trust that and you should do that. You are worthy of resting. So many of us do not feel like we are worthy of resting. And I see that now. So I'm going to try to do that differently with my kids. And I'm not saying my dad put that on me, because I don't feel like he did. I don't think that he was the stimulation that led to that way of thinking, but somehow that got in my mind that I needed to be productive in every moment of the day. This feeling of a need for productivity carried through into my adult life. Actually, until very, very recently, I was aware of some unhealthy thoughts that I was having that I think stemmed from that approval seeking when I was a child that just carried through into my adulthood. Actually, when I was thinking this morning about this episode that I was going to record for you guys, I realized that I'm not having those thoughts anymore. And this is something that I was very aware of. What would happen was I would be, let's just use cleaning the kitchen as an example. I would be cleaning the kitchen, doing the dishes, cleaning the counter, and I would be judging myself internally, so thinking in my mind that if I did it this way, like doing a really good job, I would gain the approval of somebody who was looking from the outside. And it wasn't anybody in particular, but I was just in this cognitive space of imagining myself being judged by somebody external from myself about what I was doing. Thinking that way motivated me to do a really good job because this imaginary person was watching me, and I wanted to make sure to be doing something to the best of my ability so that I could gain their approval. I would realize that I was having these thoughts, and I recognized how unhealthy it was. Like, I knew it was happening, and I knew it wasn't healthy, but it was something that happened on a regular basis. Now, since I have been focused on raising my vibration and tending to my spiritual alignment, I think that my sense of worthiness has turned internally. And since that has happened, I've been able to stop those negative, unhealthy cognitions. And now I don't do that anymore. But I actually didn't realize that I had stopped it until I started thinking about this discussion with you guys about worthiness. And then I thought, wow, cool. I'm not doing that anymore. And that was something that was really not serving me. Besides looking to other people for approval and feeling worthiness, we also look externally to God, right? To that source energy. And so many people do this. They live their lives as if God is watching them and judging them. And that is what molds their behavior in any given moment when they are focused on being judged negatively by that God source. That motivates them to behave in a particular way, which makes them believe that they would gain the approval of God so that they can feel worthy. Well, one thing I will say about that is I think it's accurate to look to source energy for approval of worthiness. The problem is, for one, that source energy is not external from you. It's within you. That's your true self. That's your inner being. And two, there's no negative judgment there. God is not angry and judgmental of your behaviors. God is everything good. Source energy is pure, positive energy. It's a distorted view of that leads people to that feeling of unworthiness. It's impossible to please a God that is angry and judgmental. And if you hold yourself in that way of thinking, that doesn't feel good, does it? And when you don't feel good, then you know that you are misaligned. You're disconnected. You're detached from that source energy, from that God source. And what you're thinking about yourself, which is leading to that feeling of unworthiness, is actually the opposite of what source energy thinks and feels about you. Your emotions are the communication that is occurring between you and your source energy. If you are having thoughts of unworthiness, which leads to feeling bad, that right there is proof of your worthiness, because that negativity you're experiencing tells you that what you're thinking and feeling is the opposite of what your source energy is thinking and feeling. You're the one that's cutting it off. It's your human consciousness detaching from your alignment with your source. It's communicating to you that your source sees your worthiness. The more unworthy you feel is the more worthy that you really are. The more negative of an emotion that you feel is the further disconnected you are from your source energy. It's you being the most wrong you could possibly be, because your source is always flowing wellness to you and is always holding you in a place of worthiness. Your source knows your worthiness because you are source. You are that pure positive energy. And the way that you're thinking and feeling is just detaching you from that place. And that's why it doesn't feel good. Because that's the communication of, hey, you're getting off track over here. You're not feeling good, right? That's because I'm up here and you're lowering yourself way down there. But go ahead and come back up here so that you can feel the truth. And when you decide to do that, when you decide to focus on your alignment and work your way back up the emotional guidance scale, you'll start to feel better and you'll start to realize how worthy you really are. Would you like to have an ad-free experience? I know you probably have my intro and my outro memorized by now, and maybe you just kind of want to cut out that ad space, this one right now that you're listening to, so that you can just get all of the content of the episode? Well, if that does sound like something that you're interested in, I've put together a Patreon account, and I'm offering all of the episodes I've recorded so far without that extra stuff, so you just get the content. And I'm also going to be offering members early access to the newly released episodes. So I'll be putting those on Patreon several days before the episode releases on all the other podcast platforms. So you'll be able to listen before everybody else. You'll also get access to the Dr. Williams Pod. It's a community where we're going to be able to interact and know each other on a more personal level. I'm going to be offering some Q&As so that we can really dive into some of these topics, and you can share your thoughts and I'll share my thoughts, and we can have a dialogue going. I think that we all could benefit from that. So that's something else I'm going to be offering. In addition, I'm going to be putting together a lot of exclusive content, things that I'm working on, creative projects that I have that are only going to be available to those people who are members on Patreon. You can find the link to the Patreon in the show notes, and I'm also going to post on social media, so you should be able to find it on all of my pages there as well. I look forward to getting to know all of you guys better and engaging in some co-creating together. For now, I'll just get back to the episode. See you on Patreon. The truth is, you're worthy of anything that you want. Anything. You don't have to do anything to get what you want. There is no external force or being that is saying you have to do this, this, and this in order to receive worthiness. The worthiness is yours, and it is flowing to you consistently. The difference is whether you are in tune with it or if you're pinching it off and removing yourself from the truth. You are worthy of love, success, abundance, happiness, fun, adventure, excitement, rest, ease. You are worthy of ease. Life is supposed to be an enjoyable experience. This is not something that you have to fight for. Working hard, that does not win you spiritual awards. Everything you want is yours when you let go of the resistance that you are putting up, which keeps you from having it. If you just let it go, relax, and allow those desires into your experience, you will start to witness how you are manifesting things in your life. There's nothing else that feels more worthy than that. When you recognize what you're doing and that you are receiving these things into your life because of your creative power, you are going to step into the strongest feeling of worthiness you've ever had. And that's when you come up into being a deliberate creator and truly feel satisfied in your life because you'll know the truth. So many of us have been cut off from the truth and feeling like we have to do X, Y, and Z in order to achieve approval and worthiness. But the truth is, you're looking for it in all the wrong places. It's not outside of you. The only place that you can achieve worthiness is by looking within and aligning with your source. Here's the tricky thing about it. In order for you to achieve those manifestations, in order for your thoughts to turn to things, you have to tap into that feeling of worthiness in order to feel satisfied and achieve those manifestations. You would think it would be the other way around. That once you start seeing the manifestations, then you feel like you're worthy of them. But it doesn't work that way. You have to tap into the feeling in order for you to allow the manifestations to occur in your life. So that's where the work really is to tune inward, get to know your inner being, your true self, and allow your vibration to raise. Allow yourself to know your worthiness, and then you'll see the magic happen. Do you remember when I was talking in that episode on toxic positivity. I feel like that plays in here because that woman who was speaking to herself in the mirror and forcing the positive affirmations on herself, she didn't agree with the positive affirmations. She said, no, that's not how I feel. And the whole point of this whole toxic positivity movement is that when you force something that you don't believe, it doesn't feel good. And I agree with that. I don't agree with the title of toxic positivity because by nature, positivity cannot be a negative thing. By definition, it is good. But what was happening was the woman looking at herself in the mirror was not aligning with her own worthiness. She didn't feel that she was worthy of the positive affirmation. It's not that it wasn't true. It's that she didn't feel worthy. And the reason is because she was out of alignment with her true self. That's what that whole video should have been about, was her detachment from her true self. Because that's what was happening. She was feeling unworthy, which just meant that she was having thoughts and feelings that were different than her source. She probably didn't know that. And that's a big problem also. When people don't know the truth about source, then it's harder to tap into it. But when you do know that source is not external from you, and that source is always flowing wellness and worthiness to you, and that when you are not feeling that way or thinking that way, that just means that you're cutting yourself off, that makes it easier to find your way and to find your path back into alignment. It's the baseline. It's who you really are. It's just getting back into your sense of true self. Source will never view you in any other way than worthy, because that's the truth of who you really are. You just have to know how to align yourself with that so that you can feel it. Source adores you. If you aren't feeling that way, you're just out of range. That's where the work is. How do you do that? What you do is you look for evidence of your wellness and your worthiness, of your goodness. When you look for it, you will find it, but you have to start looking for it. When that is your mission, and you start to look within to find things about yourself that are evidence to your worthiness, you activate that vibration in yourself. And that is what draws you to finding the truth. Vibrational alignment is always the goal. And you know you're there because you feel good. Your work is to tune into that and to hold it there as long as you can. So let's say that you're trying. You're really, really trying to look for evidence of your worthiness, and you just can't. You're just so focused on your unworthiness. Well, the best thing to do at that point is to not add more resistance by trying harder, because trying harder is pushing against the thing that you want. What you can do is turn that love and affection and view of worthiness onto something that you truly feel that way about. So a child, or a pet, or another person, or your plants. Something that you truly have that love for, that appreciation for. And focus on that. Give it your attention for 16 or 17 seconds, and then let it turn into another 16 or 17 seconds. Gain some momentum going to achieve those feelings of worthiness about something else so that you can be a vibrational match to that feeling of worthiness. If you do this on a regular basis and you can tap into that feeling because you're actually experiencing your focus on something you feel is worthy of love and appreciation, once you can achieve that, you can start to turn it towards yourself. and look for the evidence of your own worthiness. This is something that might take time. It all depends on how long you have been feeling unworthy, how much momentum is going there. If you've been feeling that way for a long time, it's going to take some active effort to seek that feeling of worthiness. But it's worth it. It's definitely worth it to do the work. I think that things are changing in the world. I think that there is a spiritual awakening that's happening on a grand scale. So when I'm talking about childhood and how we learned to seek approval externally, I think that that's still happening in a great degree, but I think it's shifting. And I think that starts with us and our generation to start to turn that around. But let's just imagine the difference that could make in the world. Let's just imagine that you were raised by somebody who had an understanding of the vibrational nature of the universe. That person did not reprimand you for your behavior and did not make you seek approval from them, but taught you about your own worthiness from an early age. They instilled that in you. Actually, they didn't even instill it in you because you're born knowing that. Children know their worthiness. What happens is they get trained to a different understanding based on the influences in their lives. Unworthiness is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. When you nurture that love of self from an early age, and you don't require anyone to behave any differently than how they are, their sense of worthiness will be at their core. If you pair that with the understanding of where that comes from, in that source energy, in their inner being, in their true self, and how to understand where they are in relation to that vibrational frequency of their source energy by knowing what their emotions really mean and how that communication helps them to stay in alignment, just think about that for a second. Think about that life, how that's going to go. What is that little being going to do in their life when they know, without a shadow of a doubt, the truth about their worthiness? When they truly love themselves because they know that their true self is pure positive energy and that they have the ability to do whatever they want, to have everything they want in life, and that they're here to enjoy the journey and to create it and to create their reality in however they see fit. Think of how satisfying that life is. When we teach others to gain approval from us, what we're really telling them is, you have to change so that I can feel better. Isn't that it? With the kids, I'll talk about my own kids, with the star chart. What I'm telling them is, I want you to do these things and I will reward you for doing them because I want to feel good with you guys getting along. It makes my life easier when you and your brother are not fighting, so I'm going to reward these behaviors. It's my own selfishness that's driving that because I want it to be easy on me. And there's a lot of ownership that comes with that. That is why we train other people to seek our approval. It comes from a sense of our own selfish nature because of something that we want from them. But when you take it away, when you don't require other people to be a certain way so that you can feel good, when you know how to feel good no matter who's around you, that is a healthy environment. That's the goal. And when you're doing that with children, you're teaching them that they are worthy to be the same way, that they can be happy and healthy, and they don't need anybody's approval to be that way. Their worthiness is who they really are. And if anybody else is feeling bad around them, it's not because of them. That's their fault. That's their issue. All they really need to focus on is what's going on within themselves and aligning with their true self. What worthiness really is feeling whole, feeling like your whole self. It's that vibrational matching of your human consciousness with your inner being that makes you feel whole, like a whole being. The only way to achieve that is by tuning in to your true self and knowing how your true self views you. You are worthy. Worthiness is your baseline. And maybe you've been trained to believe otherwise, or to think that you have to do this, this, and this. But the truth is you don't. And you'll know this if you look within and find the answers. Don't take my word for it. Spend the time getting to know you, your true self, and then you will know, without any doubt, that of course you're worthy. You're worthy of everything you want. And now that you know it, you can achieve it. That concludes this episode, but if you don't want to wait for the next episode to come out, I have more for you at drwilliamspodcast.com. You can learn more about me and my journey to podcasting, find all the ways to connect with me on social media, and there's a button to subscribe so you're the first to know what's new and upcoming. You also can shoot me an email at hello@drwilliamspodcast.com. You are so special to me, and your support does not go unnoticed. I want to support you too. This podcast is my outlet for growth, because when you teach something, you hold yourself accountable and apply the information in life. But the inspiration for these episodes comes in a variety of ways, and one of those is through you. I want you to feel like this is your show too. So send me a message and let me know which episode is your favorite and why. And tell me if there's a topic you'd want to hear me talk about. Your feedback applies to so many people, and your suggestion could change someone's life for the better. The best way to do this is by subscribing to the show and leaving a review through your favorite podcast platform. I really listen to you guys, and this dialogue feeds my soul. You say that you're a fan of me, but truth be told, I am a fan of yours. Everything is working out for each of us, and we're all in this together.